Order the, I'm calling to order the June 13th Planning and Zoning meeting at 6:30 PM. So roll call, Kathy Brandt Rucker, the chair, is absent. Commissioner Wendy Phillips, vice chair, that is me, I'm present. Commissioner Jim Richards.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Sorensen.
Here.
Commissioner Colleen Fried is absent. Commissioner John Evans.
Here.
Staff Phil Carlson.
Here.
Staff Joe Palin. Not present, and staff Jason Maker, our city administrator, is off getting married, I believe, on vacation. So, we are moving to the third item on the agenda, and that is the approval of the agenda. And I am going to entertain a motion to add other business to this agenda as agenda item number 8, moving the adjournment to agenda item number 9.
I'd also like to add something under new business, please.
Would you like to make a
I
motion?
make a motion to add something under new business. Brad Schopner for a possible lot split.
Okay, there are two motions right now. Let's go ahead and take the first one. Is there a second to putting other business in as item 8?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of adding other business, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. We have added other business to the agenda as item 8. And there is a motion on the floor to add new business item A as a lot split discussion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to add new business in the way of a lot split discussion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of adding this discussion in new business, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is carried. The two amendments are being added as items. Now what we need to do is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. And we have an approved agenda. So we are moving on to the approval of the minutes. These minutes from May 9th were previously distributed. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes from May 9th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the May 9 minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor of approving the May 9th minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. And the motion is carried. May 9 minutes are approved. So let's see what time it is. Our first public hearing, which is agenda item number 5, is set for 6:35 PM. So we've got just a moment to wait until that time arrives. If there is anyone present who is going to want to make a public comment regarding any of the 3 public hearings that we have on the agenda, we have these forms at the podium if you'd like to come up and take one and fill it out and bring it up to me and let me know which public hearing that is for. I will make sure that you have an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, that'll work.
Blank. Just want to make sure I don't hammer it. Okay, it is 6:35. And we are going to open up public hearing number 1. That is a building variance request at 51 Minnesota Avenue South. The applicant is Irv DeVlaming, and I hope I pronounced that right, Irv. What was that?
Good enough.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for showing me grace. I appreciate that. So we have opened this public hearing at 6:35. And this is the first call for public comments. At this time, I'd like to invite Irv up to the podium for his comments.
Well, basically, all I want to do is replace my barn that was destroyed. It was there for God knows how long, probably 120 years or so. I think it was built in about 1880. So it's kind of hard to replicate what it was. And I used it as an accessory to my house because my house is across the street and it doesn't have enough property to build on. So I bought that for my storage use. So now I don't have no storage use. So basically all I want to do is rebuild something for my storage and make it look nice enough to fit in for the historical district. Now, it's kind of hard to replicate what it was, because it was built for horses. And now I got a car. I'm not gonna put a horse somewhere. So I guess I'm not asking much, and if whatever you guys decide, you know, I'll work with you on it. It is what it is. So, you know, I'm not gonna hold it against anybody for not voting against it or for it or against it or whatever. So. The variance, I guess it's for putting it back, the setbacks for the current zoning codes. And the building that I'm proposing is 30 by 40, and the old barn was roughly a 30-foot square. So it's a little bit different. But I want to try to replicate the colors on it. The old barn was burnt. It was all burnt roof, old metal, rusted, and the sides were, half of them were metal and the other half was wood. So, and the new building is going to be metal on the outside, and you know, I can make changes to that if I have to. And the water and sewer is there, and the building never had water and sewer before, because the city never had water and sewer. And so the utilities are available for the lot now. You know, down the road, who knows what it could turn into. I mean, the lot itself. But I'm gonna try to conform to whatever the current zoning rules are. So. You're.
You are so kind, Herb.
Oh, did you put up
I'm
here?
trying to butter up there.
Everybody take notes. Thank you, Herb.
So that's about all I have to say. I mean, I didn't think it would be this difficult to rebuild this, so. You know, things have changed. So I'm just going along with the city. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Serve you.
Okay, so this is second call for public comments. Paul, did you fill out a form? Oh, can I have it, please?
certainly can.
Thank you.
Are there any more up there?
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
it's up there.
Oh, Jan has one up there as well?
Yeah, it's got-
Oh, would you give that to me as well, please? Thank you.
Hello, Herb lost, Paul Pendergrass, 105 Minnesota Avenue North. Herb lost his barn. It was unfortunate. Somebody decided they wanted to do whatever to burn it down, but you know, he's just trying to put his storage, you know, he doesn't want to lose his storage space. He's had it for years over there. The zoning requirements make it required to be off the lot line. It was originally right on the lot line, on the alley. I kind of get that. I'm having a difficult time requiring him to get a variance to put it back up there. It should be just allowed for him to put the permit up. He's meeting the setbacks. And I guess I don't know what else we really want him to do other than I'm sure he's gonna make it look right. He's not one that's gonna, you know, not gonna do what's right. 'Cause he's been after it for 6 months, going on 8 months now. It was right around the 1st of October, it was burnt. He's been after a building permit for it. Seems like it's just been kind of not being done. I think we need to do right by our citizens and let it be used for storage. I know it's downtown in the historic district. It's supposed to be a business on the property, but it never was a business before, and I can't see why we can't let it stay where it will stay the use it's been. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Thronson?
Good evening, my name is Jan Tronson. I own the building right next to her, the tan building on the hill. I built that 12 years ago. Those lots up there are 5 commercial properties. When I built my building, they made me comply with all the setbacks for commercial property. They made me put the front on it. They made me, the city and planning and zoning made me do all that to do the setbacks. There's 5 different lots up there. Irv owns 2, the VFW owns 2, and I own the 1. I think it's important. I worked with the sheriff's department, or I got a call at 2:00 in the morning from the sheriff's department when the building was on fire. It's probably a good thing my building didn't catch fire, to put water in my building, keep my building from burning down. I worked very hard with with Irv and the Minnesota fire people. I give them all my video. They have a perpetrator coming across there with a ski mask on, with gloves and everything else. I worked diligently with them 2 days to get them the footage so they could find out who that person was. And my understanding, he was doing some other things in town along with that. Neighbors are good neighbors, and Irv has been a very good neighbor for me in 12 years. And I don't want to put anybody against me or whatever to do things, but the question I would like to see Irv to be able, tonight's thing, and really, you really not tell me what you want. You said a variance of what? I don't know what the variance is. What the variance is or what it consists of. Is it allowing someone to build something that's non-commercial on commercial property? Is it the setbacks that in other words, my building is set back to the setbacks of what goes on. And not every piece of property can do that. So that's why you can ask for some variances. But moving forward, what do we do in the future? If you allow, if you allow variances for a lot of things, then why do we have zoning and building codes? Because everyone kind of builds whatever they want, and whatever you want. So I've talked at length with Irv on this, and I think it's important that he's allowed to put a building back up on his property to do what he wants. But I would ask that when you look at things, that you look at, if you don't make it a commercial, make it be a commercial building there, then when he sells it and someone buys that commercial lot, what grandfathers those people the next time? I tore down an 1885 house on the property. The place was a dump. I tore it down, filled the hole in, closed the well up and did everything else. And with that property up and everything else, I'm gonna tell the planning and zoning, there's a couple people in city council. I have the only manhole in the state of Minnesota that's in a gravel road. The only one.
Mr. Tronson, you have 3 minutes. Would you go?
Well,
ahead and-
3 minutes sometimes, yeah, Chair, sometimes when you're talking about variances and bringing something forward.
I'm just letting you know it's
Okay.
been 3 minutes and I'm asking you to.
So the thing is that when you allow Irv to put his building back up, where we got sewer and water there, where's my blacktop? Where's my road? For the last 2 years, they tore the trees down to do the sewer project and the trees still lay in the ditch. I'd ask anybody here on the council or the plan zone, would you expect that in front of your house? So if these are commercial and we're gonna let Irv put another nice building back up there, I gonna be the only one and Irv only one in town that doesn't have a blacktop road and we pay our taxes? And I've been after this for 12 years.
I think that's a different issue than.
Well, it is, but it's all goes with commercial property and what you do.
Yeah.
So I fully expect Irv, I'd like to see Irv to be able to put something back, but I just ask you guys to really consider what's allowed there, because what does that set for the future on the other lots? Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
So this is the third call for public comments. And there are none, so we will close the public hearing at 6:47 PM. And we will move into the planner's report. Since you're here, Phil, would you like to do us the honors? Thank you.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, the item in front of you is from Irv de Vlaeminck, as you noted, and this is obviously the result of a tragic circumstance at that barn, 1880 something. That's an amazing old structure. And so just off the bat in my report, no question that he should get to be able to rebuild something on that property. And the question really is, as was mentioned here, how, exactly how? It was non-conforming, and just to clarify that, so if a structure or a use doesn't meet the codes that are in place, we call it non-conforming. And it was non-conforming in several ways. The use itself, as Irv said, it was a storage use without anything else on the property. And that simply isn't allowed in Orinoco. It's not allowed in any zoning ordinance I'm aware of in the whole state of Minnesota. So you have to have a principal use, a house or a business, and then you can have this accessory use, if it's a garage or a barn or a parking lot or whatever the accessory, the secondary use is. Second, as it was noted, it was actually built slightly over the lot line. So it wasn't just right up to the property line, it was over it. So that was non-conforming. There are now in place the architectural control guidelines. And perhaps some of you, good citizens of Orinoco, spent many hours putting together standards that said, you know, we want our downtown to be someplace special. It's a historic downtown. We're an interesting little community. Let's keep it that way. Let's make it better. And so those guidelines are in place. They're in your ordinance. And so there are standards there. And I went to the effort of attaching all 8 or 10 or 12 pages, whatever it is, to the report. You can see the kinds of things that are mentioned. So interesting places with character these days don't just happen by themselves. There has to be some focused, deliberate effort. And that's what went into those guidelines to put those in place. So those are in place. And so the barn burned down. And just to be clear, state law allows him to rebuild that barn as it was. Non-conforming use, it's right there. So anybody in the state who has an existing use can rebuild it. So if he built a structure that was the same size, shape, and location no question, the city could just issue him a building permit. Except for the part that went over the lot line into the street right away. That we'd say, no, you can't actually build that there. But what he's proposing, he says, no, I won't build it that close to the lot line. I'll pull it back. I'll meet the setbacks. Great. It was just a storage use without another use. He said, it's an office with a garage and storage attached. Great. So it meets the use question. It doesn't quite meet those architectural guidelines. And so I don't want to design the barn for him. Maybe you don't want to design the new storage building for him. But there are, like I say, several pages of specific guidelines that I think it would be relatively easy to modify that building so it would meet those guidelines. And so that's really the only variance that I see that's required here. And so my report, very hesitantly, I recommended denial of the variance because it doesn't meet those guidelines. And so they're not my guidelines, they're your guidelines. And so it's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission to decide, do you want to continue to reinforce and support and encourage and require those guidelines to be met? Or do you let really one of the first buildings in downtown historic Orinoco in the last several years to be built? Should we just let this one go through? And my recommendation, I know it may not be popular, my recommendation is no, you should ask that that building be modified slightly so it meets the guidelines. So my recommendation and findings are in the report, and I'd be happy to answer questions that you might have.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and I read through the OACC guidelines, and if he were to take the new size building and honor the setbacks and was able to meet 3 of those criteria in that OACC guideline, then that building would be within the parameters of what would be allowable.
Right, there's lots of guidelines, and so if you can meet those, like I say, I didn't want to say he should do A, B, C, and D. It's just like, here's the guidelines.
Right, there's a whole lot of them, but only 3 of them would need to be met to qualify the building, is that right?
So, yes, so that's the recommendation.
So in looking at that, and I'm glad you're up here, Phil, and it's nice to see you in person. And looking at it and the building that Irv had proposed, I know had 2 windows. He's more than willing to add additional windows, 4 or 5 windows, whatever it is, to do that to that building. And I think that that's a doable for what Irv had. The exterior materials, instead of being all metal, there's some unique things that you can do with artificial brick nowadays that you can do off of corners and off of that. And I know that that would be something that would be relatively easy to split that up. And I know he was trying color wise to make it look as close to what the old barn was as it goes up there. You know, so that would kind of help with the contrasting colors that you had off of it that way. And the other thing that's in there, you have the vertical and horizontal elements. If you go by and it doesn't show from the overhead picture that you took, which is what you were given, there's a wall that's already been put up that's there that gives it a unique appearance right now that was put up after the fire. And he also turned around and put up a fence that there was out of the same materials that there were originally, that there were back from the 1880s on the split wood that he has up there to kind of help get it to look more conforming to what there is for what we're looking for the downtown area. So I think that even though you're looking at it visually, if you go by and look, you'll see a difference of what there is on how he's set that up right now with the brick and everything that's up front. You know, so I think that we could turn around and I don't want to speak for Irv, but I think that I'll let Irv speak for himself, but I think that we can make those conditions. Meet those, which would kind of be much, much closer to what there is, given the situation of what happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
And if I understand what you're saying, you're suggesting there are modifications to the design that would, what, actually then meet the OACC?
pretty close on those things, on what you had mentioned on the revised design type situation.
And if he does that, he doesn't need your permission or my permission, he doesn't need a variance. Just apply for a building permit and put it up. If it doesn't quite meet that and you say, close enough, let's see what you got, and we'll give you a variance for something close but not quite, that's different, that needs a variance. But if it actually would meet the guidelines, we don't need to be here and discuss.
Irv, you have any comments?
Well, I'm trying to make it appear to look like it used to. So it's gonna fit in and look historic. That's just the way I do things. The wall that's there for the retaining of the dirt is cobblestone front. And that's similar to the materials that they would have used back in the 1800s to build stuff that you don't normally see nowadays, you know. We just do things different today than, but.
So I think that he's really trying hard to.
Sounds like a great start.
Yeah.
And one, this is your meeting and you can decide what to do with this, but if Irv is willing to put that out and maybe another change or two, and if he and I can work out something that, in my opinion, meets the ordinance, then you don't need to be involved and you can say, we'll continue the item and see if he can't meet it.
You want to work with Phil, Irv, are you
Oh,
open?
sure, I'm willing to work with any.
Okay, because I think we're that close. It's just, we want to try to do it. And again, I'm with you on what you are for the way you look at our code and to follow what the code is there. So.
Like I say, it's not my code, it's
No,
your
it's,
code.
but it's, you're following what's
Right.
going on. So, thank you on that. But I think we can come to
Right.
something that's going to be workable.
So is your recommendation at this point, Phil, for us to leave this public hearing open, continue it to the next meeting, and you and Irv will be working together in the meantime? And then if you're not able to come to, an agreement between the two of you, we could revisit the variance at that time with the information that we have, if anything has changed between now and then?
Yes, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay. So then what I am recommending, or what I'm going to do, is that we will keep this public hearing open through the July 11 meeting. And we will continue this conversation. At that point, if it requires a vote, we will vote at that point. But it sounds like we may reach a place where you two are able to arrive at those things that take it out of being in need of a variance. So is that good, Irv?
Yeah, I didn't. I guess I thought the variance was for me moving it off the footsteps of the old barn and bringing it off the current setbacks and the size of it being a little bit different than what it was.
No, I think it's more of the aesthetics is where we're looking at off of that. And if we can make a few adjustments on the aesthetics, that will fit in there. But again, I think the wall makes a difference. I think it's one of those things that blends in. Jan's is all metal, but I think that we want to look at what the current is to try to make just a variation off of that. Some extra windows, so.
Yeah, and I looked at some materials today. The front wall is cobblestone, but and thirdly. And so I was thinking of putting that on the front part of the building facing Minnesota Avenue. So that's what you'll see cobblestone and then the split rail fence and the cobblestone on front of the new building.
We gotta let you work with Bill and we'll come up with,
And you had something else you wanted to say?
Well, just that you were making a motion for the commission to take.
To keep the public hearing open?
Yeah.
So I entertain a motion. Would anybody like to make that motion to keep this public hearing open until the July 11 meeting?
I make a motion to keep that open until the July 11th meeting or open.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding that? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor of continuing with this open public hearing to the July 11 meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. We will keep this public hearing open until July 11. Phil, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
very good.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
And Irv, thank you for your patience in this as we are working our way through this process.
Is what it is.
Thank you. So we are now moving into a public hearing for application for Two Sisters sign variance. We are talking about the property that is being built at 1251 Cedar Center Avenue Southeast. And so the public hearing for this is opening at 7:01 PM. If there's anybody that would like to make comments, public comments about this, if you would please go to the podium and get one of these slips and go ahead and fill it out and bring it up to me. Lori Melbourne or Diane Osland, are either of you here tonight? Hi, did you want to come up and make a comment? No, yeah.
I didn't know we were gonna speak.
Only if you want to.
Okay. Just gonna say, this will be very quick. What we're applying for is a blade sign. And a blade sign is, it's a round sign that's going to stick on the side of the building that will attach to the cafe and identify where you go in to get your coffee. And that's really all it is. It's gonna be very pretty. That looks on the outside of the building. So apparently it is different from a sign that is attached to the building. But that's what we're asking for, is a variance in whatever is dictated by the city. So
Thank you so much.
that's it. Thank you.
This is the second call for public comments. And a third call for public comments. And I am going to close the public comments, public comments at 7:03. And if we could have the planner's report, would you do the honors again, Phil? I like having you here. Phil.
This
Let
is
me
great,
tell you.
yeah.
Well, I like being here, and it works all the way around. So the request, as you noted, is for Two Sisters Kitchen and Bar, and they need a variance. And this really stems from what might be a quirk and maybe something you don't need or want in your ordinance, but it's there, so don't shoot the messenger. What they're requesting is a blade sign, or in our ordinance, we call it a projecting sign. Most signs are flat on the face of the building, or it's a freestanding sign. Here, this is it's projecting from the building. It simply isn't permitted in that B2 district, and yet it fits with the overall sign package. It really won't cause any kind of a problem. And so we're recommending that you approve this as being a perfectly reasonable use, and the circumstances here are that it's part of an overall sign package. So there are numerous details in the report, as well as diagrams of the signage and excerpts from the zoning code that we can go into if you want. But the bottom line is we're recommending approval of this. And as you're going through your ordinance, as you are now, this might be one of those many details that you look at and say, Is that what we really want?
Would you please go ahead and elaborate on where our city code is in contradiction with itself? Just to help the people that are here understand that
Sure.
That
That it,
position.
the code lists the kind of signage that's allowed in each district. And it says that projecting signs are only allowed in the historic district. So this is not the historic district. This is the B2 commercial district. And so we're left with, well, here's a projecting sign being proposed, and it's not allowed, but then there is a, let me find it in the report.
On page 2, I think, is
Yeah, there's a curious place where it says the signage not allowed under a canopy. And I'm sorry, I can't find that right now, but so it mentions projecting signs in a couple of places. And so it's left ambiguous. And so, again, that's not unusual. As ordinances are written and changed over the years, there's so many different pieces that sometimes it's difficult to have everything be perfectly consistent and clear. This is one of them. So with this petition, we're recommending approval and let them get on with their business.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to open this up to the discussion of the commissioners. Before we discuss, is there a motion regarding the application for sign variance for Two Sisters Restaurant?
I make a motion that we accept this variance for Two Sisters.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the variance request for the sign. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor of approving the request for sign variance for Two Sisters Restaurant, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say no. The motion is carried. The sign variance is granted. Little celebration going on there in the back of the room. Thank you. And so we are going to move on to our third and final public hearing. And this is for rezone variance and preliminary plat application. And there are no designated addresses as of yet, but the streets that kind of triangulate that are Second Avenue South, Cedar Drive, and Cedar Point Road Southeast. The application is for the Hamilton Real Estate Group, owned by Hellas ADG Incorporated. And we are going to open this public hearing at 7:08 p.m. Is there anybody present here from the Hamilton Group that would like to speak at this time? Is that you, Ari?
Yeah.
Would you like to come on up and,
Now or later?
would you like to speak first or last or? Well, and if you have something else that you need to add later on, we'll make allowance for that.
I'm no
You bet. Thank you.
good official.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you all I did not come prepared tonight for anything. I don't have any prepared remarks because as far as I thought and knew after our discussions with staff, we're not really presenting or doing anything tonight. But I do want to come anyway, just to say thank you all for the many months we've been coming here and your support, your guidance, your ideas, your thoughts, working with Ryland, the staff, Phil, Joe, everyone. It's been wonderful, really. Not easy. It's been a long time and a lot of different things, but we've tried to do our best to listen and incorporate all the different ideas and work within all the parameters. So we are excited. We are bringing things forward, hopefully next month. the official things, and we're excited to be a part of Orinoco. This is my family's land. House ADG, my brothers and I, my father bought it a few months ago, and now, so we're the ones developing it along with Hamilton on Stratton. So just so we understand, this is a personal thing for our family too. And we are excited to be here in Orinoco and make something proud for us, for Orinoco and the whole neighborhood that will fit right in. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And so Paul Janetto, would you like to come up and make your comments?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Paul Janetto, 1090 Cedar Drive, Southeast Orinoco. I'd like to first start off by thanking the Planning and Zoning Committee for your service and for this opportunity to express my family's concerns this evening over the proposed variance, rezone, and preliminary plat for parcels that are off Cedar Point Road, Southeast and Second Avenue, Southeast. As Planning and Zoning knows, when considering a petition for rezoning, you must answer a series of questions, such as will the proposed rezoning be sufficiently compatible with the goals and objectives of the local comprehensive plan or future land use plan? All questions must be answered positively in the findings of fact for approval. In this case, the preliminary plat shows multiple duplex and quad housing in an area that per our future land use plan is designated as R1, low density, single family homes. When my family and I bought our home over 10 years ago, the very first thing we did was look at the future land use plan and see what the surrounding property was zoned. We purposely moved from a high density area in Rochester to Orinoco so our family could live in a low density area with spacious lots for our children to grow up in and play. In fact, on the home page on the Orinoco website, it calls Orinoco a safe community with some elbow room where the big city is still within easy reach. Rezoning this area to R2 and putting higher density homes in an R1 zoned area goes against the future land use plan, which is what current city residents and taxpayers have trusted and have invested in. In addition, when planning and zoning has to grant a variance or exception to part of a zoning ordinance, it also must answer positively to a series of questions, including that the variance will not impact parking or traffic substantially, or increase the danger of fire, or be a detriment to the public. For the League of Minnesota Cities, the variance should also be in harmony with other land use controls and must be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. And if the variance is granted, it must not alter the essential character of the locality. However, the proposed plat, variance, and rezoning would most definitely alter the essential character of the locality, with smaller lot sizes and higher density housing, adding significantly more traffic, assuming an average of 2 vehicles per household, accessing both Minnesota Avenue, Cedar Point Road, and/or Second Avenue Southeast. Given the substantial increase in daily traffic volumes, the absence of sidewalks and pedestrian infrastructure, it would render this area unsafe for current and future families and residents. Let me be clear. My family and I are not against the growth and development of Orinoco, but rather it must be done correctly and in accordance with the future land use plan, where there are already multiple areas specifically designated for R2 development. Based on the findings of fact, I believe that planning and zoning cannot answer all the required questions in a positive manner. It should therefore deny the rezoning variance requests. Thank you.
So the next speaker is Josh. How do you say your name, Josh?
Jane.
Kuchane?
Kujay, yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I do not have anything prepared as Dr. Janetta did there, but I share a lot of similar beliefs. So Josh Kushane, 1440 Cedar Point Road Southeast, and I would say my family also moved to Orinoco from Rochester 5 years ago, and we did so in an attempt to escape some of that which this new development is looking to create. And where we understand that growth is not, it's not just necessary for Orinoco, it's, at this point, it's inevitable. I mean, we have, the sewer system is in place now, it's a great place to live, so with that, it'd be a great place to build houses that would, I mean, they'd probably sell themselves at this point. But what we're asking as residents of the city, what we're asking our commissioners to do here is to look at that big picture and say, hey, what is this going to, how is this going to impact our city? Not just tomorrow or next year, but in 5 years, in 10 years from now. And I understand that that's a pretty tall order, and I've watched countless hours of meeting minutes where meetings that I'm glad that I didn't have to be present in person and that I could watch at 1.5 times speed on YouTube. To know that that's a very tall order to say, hey, what is this gonna look like? But it's imperative that we look at that change and say, hey, is this growth, does it need to happen overnight? No. Does it need to happen immediately? No. Does it need to happen in a controlled environment? Yes, that we cannot allow this to happen in an uncontrolled manner. And so I'm here tonight asking planning and zoning, when you are considering this, please think of that big picture. Do not recommend this to city council to pass, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is Joy Bertsinger ready to come up?
My name is Joy Bertsinger, 600 6th Street Southwest in Orinoco. I'm just going to discuss a little bit about the R2 medium to high density residential development. I've not seen the overlay where it actually overlays the new development onto the future land use plan of 2020. So that's my concern. Some of my comments may not pertain because they might not match up. I know that we're looking at the 2020 updated future land use plan that designates the R2 development. And the 2006 comprehensive plan discusses R2 residential development. In the early 2000s, the city council discussed the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan, noting that there was no municipal water and sewer facilities at that time. However, the discussion occurred that these two documents could change if and when the city municipal services became available. The phasing of R2 could start possibly with 1/2 acre lots next to existing larger lots. Perhaps by creating a visual site break between the higher density and the R1 density development. Traffic concerns, both cars and pedestrians, should be reviewed and planned for as higher residential density occurs. Developmental plans should be reviewed with this in mind. I see the need for smaller residential lots and perhaps a limited number of townhomes. Our community offers few opportunities for financial diversity in relation to housing. Young families, aging residents should have the same opportunities to enjoy our great community. When I visited with older residents, they fear having to move out of Orinoco when their large homes become a barrier to them. Young families would like to move to our smaller community, but cannot afford the $400,000, $500,000 homes. Orinoco should be open to all, not just to financially affluent. And I'm not trying to pinpoint anybody, I'm just saying it should be a fact. We need to address the concerns of all the existing residents and balance them, excuse me, with the possible new residents' concerns. Discussion and planning can help address these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy.
And I have one final slip here for Grant Kocher.
Grant Kocher, 1240 Cedar Drive Southeast. Some people a little louder, it's tough to hear in the back, but 8 years ago in 2016, my wife Morgan and I moved to Orinoco with our 2 daughters. Since that time, we've added 3 more children to our family. We moved to Rochester where we had a 0.19 acre lot to Cedar Woodlands, where we have roughly an acre and a wooded lot now. As we were assessing where we wanted to raise our family, safety became a major focus as we wanted to live in an area where our kids could play without worry. As we've received information regarding this proposal, we realized that what we moved to Orinoco is now at stake. With this proposed development and major rezone from R1 to R2, the amount of traffic in our neighborhood will increase drastically. I think it's fair to say that residents in Cedar Woodlands 1 and 2 have already noticed an uptick in traffic with Glenn's Motor Coach, as well as the construction of 2 Sisters. However, the traffic will now increase with that opening of the restaurant and the consideration of adding high-density housing to the level that is proposed. And it will far exceed what the current roads were built for. Currently, many of the residents from Cedar Woodlands as well as River Park frequently walk Cedar Point Road, and my fear is that this will no longer be safe with the amount of traffic from this proposed development. Furthermore, when meeting with Hamilton back in December, we raised this concern and asked if a sidewalk would be added on Cedar Point Road, and we were met with no. It's not a city requirement, so it's not in the plan. I suppose the argument could be made, well, find someplace else to walk. But if that argument loses merit when you have to consider kids walking to and from the bus during the school year. You know, aside from just looking for this from the safety aspect of this area, when we made our investment in our property, we did so with the knowledge that the land across from us was zoned as R1. Thinking similar lots and houses would be built to align with the integrity of the current neighborhood. I say this because I don't think a single resident in Cedar Woodlands was naive to think that the land would never be developed, but the ask is that it be developed as currently zoned. The Orinoco City website itself states from the historic downtown district to the sprawling acreages of newer developments, along with a beautiful park and trail systems that continues to expand, many residents in Orinoco admit to feeling just a bit spoiled. And this proposed development would be in direct contrast to what this town has prided itself to be. Back in early December, following our HOA's meeting with Hamilton, one of the neighbors reached out to the mayor and expressed concerns about moving away from the current zoning and received a response advising that the considerations such as this will need to be made in order to pay for the new septic system. While I can appreciate the need for the city to be creative in paying for an investment of this magnitude, it seems incredibly short-sighted to make a rash rezoning decision like this with the first developer that comes calling, especially considering that the vacant lot next to Glenn's Motor Coach is already zoned as R2. So utilizing that prior to rezoning this land or other land seems to be more practical. Lastly, with the recent creation of the EDA, it seems that it would be appropriate to receive some guidance from them when considering a project such as this. The concept of the EDA makes sense for all the right reasons, but with the group still being in its infancy and not in a place to provide guidance yet, this proposed development appears to be a developer telling Orinoco what it should be, rather than the city of Orinoco telling the developers what it wants. I know the planning and zoning is a volunteer group, and I greatly appreciate you giving your time to hear matters such as this. With city council and the mayor being elected officials and ultimately the voice of the people in this town, I truly hope you listen to the voices of the many citizens and taxpayers that have come out tonight and submitted letters when voting on this matter and choose to keep this property zoned as it was intended. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you. And so this is the second call for public comments.
Is there a way that people online can provide feedback as well?
I think that we should be able to accommodate that. If we could hold on for just a moment. We'll get back to you in just a moment, okay? Thank you.
Okay, Paul Pendergrass, 105 Minnesota Avenue. I've had several emails written to me about not wanting the R2 and concerned about, foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, and the added vehicle traffic. They, are really concerned about sidewalks and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of things that can be done in development agreements that can encourage Hamilton to add those in. I know they're not in our code, but I can't see them not putting in a sidewalk just to prevent and screw with their own, ability to get their development agreement signed and be off to a better start. But I just don't want to see the city rubber stamp it. We just need to be real diligent about watching what we're doing and realizing that we finally got a sewer in town. And we're gonna have people come there door left and right wanting to keep developing. And this is the first of many, so we just need to watch our P's and Q's. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a form here in front of me, if it is agreeable with the woman that requested to speak on Zoom. I'm gonna go ahead and take this last person that is here in person, and then I will move into Zoom. Brian Button.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name's Brian Button, 940 Woodlands Lane, Southeast Minnesota. So my wife and I, we built here 10 years ago, live in the Cedar Woodlands area. And a lot of things that I'm going to talk about or skip through a little bit though has already been mentioned. Safety is the primary concern that comes to mind for my family. I have 2 young daughters. They do walk on the streets to get to Gas and Go. They walk the streets to get to their friend's house over into Timberline area as well. So that is connected, which we haven't necessarily heard much about today, but we do know that would connect eventually. With that in mind, with the safety, I'm going to talk a little bit about the driving traffic studies. I don't think any traffic studies have been done to understand this impact of what this will do. As mentioned, when the other R2, which is across the street from this, gets built, which could be built today, which is Bankett, which Grant mentioned in his comments, that is a significant amount of traffic that has not, as far as I know, with the proposals that Hamilton has suggested, been analyzed. If it has, it'd be great to see that study or Hamilton to show us what they've done in that, if they've taken any time to look into that. In addition to this, we are opposed to seeing more R1 changed to R2, especially with all the vacancies of R2 property as it sits today. If we start to change this sets the stage for other developers to ask for additional changes. And what merit will we have to say no? If we start to change the size of properties this early on with us having a sewer system, how do we say no? How do you say no? How does the council say no in the future? If we don't take our time, understand what's going on, understand what that density will do from a safety standpoint for us, and opening the doors for everything that's on that future use plan to be in question. We've heard that variance question came up earlier today in previous discussions. How do we make sure that we don't wipe away the efforts that have been done in 2020, especially with the future use plan? So I would say, I want to state that one final thing is, Grant noted this as well. We did meet with Hamilton in December. They assured us that they would send us information. They never followed up. So trust in the developer not coming back to the citizens, because we as an HOA met, we were ready to have further conversations with them. They never fulfilled their promise to contact us. With that, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brandon.
And so at this point, the woman that is on Zoom that asked if she was going to have an opportunity to speak, if you would please identify yourself and tell us where you live, and then you will be welcome to make your public comment as well.
Great. Good evening. So my name is Marie Reisdorfer. I live at 390 Sunnyview Lane Southwest. So I'm in the River Hills district. And so Like I said, I live on the other side of 52 in the River Hills District, and I'm here to support my fellow residents of Orinoco. So similar to the first gentleman, as well as Grant mentioned, I'd like to draw the Planning and Zoning Committee's attention to the main Orinoco website. On this homepage, it describes Orinoco as a community set against a backdrop of cornfields where residents can enjoy starry skies away from the city lights in a safe and spacious environment with easy access to a big city. I am here with continued frustration that I have to address the Planning and Zoning Committee as well as elected Orinoco leadership regarding any consideration for rezoning and land variations that don't align with this vision. This vision was directly crafted by our elected leaders themselves. Over the past 12 years that we've lived in Orinoco, this is not the first incident where citizens of Orinoco have had to remain hyper vigilant to protect our community against commercial and high density home housing developments. An example of this is the cold storage unit that was proposed about 6 years ago, as well as the data center that is built in close proximity to residential areas. The residents of Orinoco do not want what type of development is occurring in Rochester to occur in our small town. Therefore, rezoning properties from R1 to R2 land use areas does not align with our community's vision. This request should be denied by this committee as well as City Council. We want growth, but growth that aligns with the city's vision. We all call Orinoco home because we want neighborhoods that are safe, spacious, and being able to see the starry skies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the third call for public comments.
Chat comments here.
One thing I think we should mention too, just so people understand the process. Because the comment was made by the last person regarding having to talk to these things in planning and zoning and city council. Just so you're aware, anybody can come here to ask for rezoning. It's not that the council is telling them you should rezone. They're coming here to ask and give us their argument as to why they think we should allow a rezoning.
And so to rebuttal that comment, I think that's fair, right? There's always an avenue to have that question. I think my comment is more that citizens have to be hyper vigilant because things have passed through this committee and city council in the past that have not aligned to it. So we have to make sure that if we want our community to be what it is, that we have to be hyper vigilant because things are getting approved and escalated that are not necessarily the right thing to do for our community.
And I agree. I agree. Yeah. This is the resident city.
Absolutely.
I think there's a Heather that's on there.
Yes. My name's Heather Rainier, and we moved here, actually built our house. We're at 785 River Park Road in the River Park division. And we built in 08. And the draw, I mean, when we moved in out here in River Park, there were maybe 4 or 5 homes here. So we've seen the whole development proceed, you know, with the rest of River Park and Cedar Woodlands. There was one house up there that had been halted on construction because of, I think the builder had gone under or whatever at the time with the kind of recession of 08. I really, really do not want to see that change with the variances. I walk at night. I enjoy I mean, we have enough cars coming in and out of River Park. And to increase that traffic, I don't think we have the infrastructure to accommodate it. We don't have the paths for, like people had mentioned, for walking paths. This all really, if you guys are contemplating passing it, all of that needs to be addressed. And, you know, I understand the family's concerns. We've raised 3 kids here, and that was part of the reason why we moved out here. So I highly request that you guys reconsider and not pass that and keep it the way it is as the R1.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather. Is there anyone else online that wants to speak?
Is it open to anybody here in person?
To-
Have a slip? Could I?
Yeah,
Sure,
if
you
you'd
can
like,
fill out,
if
sure.
you're a resident and you'd like to fill out a slip, they're on the podium.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll just start off. I'll fill this out in a second. So Marcus Allen, 620 Sunnyview Lane, over in Orinoco on that side. So I know a lot of our neighbors weren't here, but we're same thing is that in support of, you know, our fellow Orinoco people coming in saying, okay, that I know that the field in between Hundreds and Sunnyview is also looking at being rezoned for the same thing. And I know that we've talked to everybody we know in the neighborhood and no one is in support of that. They're like, the common comment is a pit in the stomach going, oh my gosh, like just the community, the neighbor, like the things that we love that just, because there is a love for this city, for people that live here. Like we want to protect, we love, and it's very welcoming. It's not, hey, everybody stay out, but we want to protect the things that we came here for, the way of life that we have, the sense of pride and ownership, the ability to keep it in what it is. And there's a very common statement that's, you know, you don't quit doing what got you to the top. When you quit doing that, then you fall again, right? You know, that when you get where you want to be, you continue doing the things that are working so well. And that is what I believe Orinoco does so well, is that it allows for the space, it allows for the safety, it allows for community, it allows for the breathing room that everybody has mentioned on the website. And so just for an uneloquent way of saying it is that we just know that for the overwhelming majority of anyone that we have talked to about this, even in our neighborhood or across the highway or any of those kind of things, that it has been, hey, this does not fit with why we came here. And, you know, and it has been saying, hey, if this starts moving forward and this is how it goes, then we're going to need to move and find a place that does fit the values and the things that we're wanting to do. And that is just a shame because it's just such a beautiful place and people love it. They built a forever homes here. Like we know so many families that moved here specifically and built a house and said, I'm staying here forever because of what it is. So that's my comments, is just in the element of just one more echo of saying, it's like, let's, with the growth, like, let's continue growing the way that it has been, in the way that's proven that it works in the space of the bigger lots, the space of where people have the ability to grow and move and have the community that we want, that has that small town feel, and allow it to grow the way that it was zoned out for, because that's the vision that we should be sticking. Thank you. I'll fill this up.
My name's Molly Bryant. I live at 747 River Park Place in Orinoco. I'm here tonight because along with this rezoning from R1 to R2, there's a proposed loop zoning map out there from, I believe, July of 2020. It shows a continued pathway from the River Park trail that leads now, it's proposing to lead through several houses and our property to continue along the river. And with this rezoning, with current activity that happens at the park, rezoning this, increasing traffic, increasing unsafe behavior at the park, to then now allow people to walk down my backyard. I have 3 small kids. There's a play set there. I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think that's part of what that's not what I moved out here for. That's not part of our small community. Like, yeah, I want to have people to have River Park river walking ways, but I don't think it's acceptable to walk in my backyard to receive that you're like 15, 20 feet from my back door. So that's part of why I say tonight, I don't think we should rezone and increase the traffic through our entire Orinoco and neighborhood along pathways.
Yeah, I'd like you to fill out a slip too, even if you drop it off on your way back to your seat. That'd be,
No problem at all.
thank you.
No, thank you for the time. My name is JT Kozer, 760 Cedar Point Lane, southeast Orinoco. And my wife and I, Katie, we just moved here this past year, built our house here. And I'm probably going to echo what a lot of people have already said, so I won't be repeating any of that. I just want to say that we had a lot of choices when we were looking at places to move to and where we live. We looked around Byron, we looked around Casson, Stewartville, and many communities surrounding the Rochester area, but we knew what we wanted. We were looking for a place that was different, unique, a place that had wide open space. When we read about Orinoco, it really interested us immensely. And so when I took a tour around the town, I said, this is different. This is not like the other communities that surround the Rochester area. And knowing what it was going to be in the future, seeing what the zoning was for R1 and the lots that were there, we knew that this would be a place we want to live. So all I'm asking is just simply preserve what the vision was for the community all along. What we saw that was special about Orinoco, please preserve that as well, because I know there's many other people that see that, and I would rather not see it become something like any other community that's out there. Let's preserve what's special and unique about this. So just thank you for considering that. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, Truscott, I just have a question to ask to make it clear. With the R2 and the higher density that they want to propose to move in, you've got the multi-million-dollar disposal plant that kind of put Orinoco on the map now that are going to get developers want to do that. What would the decision have? I have no idea what the payoff is or how that all works, but how will that consider on your decision of granting the R2 or granting up higher things to pay the plant off quicker? Because the more people that hook up to it, the more the city gets income from the sewer and water bill and stuff like that. And so it's just a question out there is what decision would that be that more developers are coming instead of single family? They want high density because they feel that it'll play to being maybe, I have no idea what the payoff is or how that all works for the city and the new plant, the multi-million-dollars out there, but someone's got to pay for it down the road. So I just asked that question out. What decision will that be with your decision or developers coming in or the city council?
Well, and if I could address that, one thing that is important to understand is this commission is we make recommendations. We do not have the authority to make final decisions. We review information as it comes to us. We make recommendations and we pass that on to the city council. And so the city council is the body that makes the decisions regarding all of this. We do hear it and make recommendations according to our best judgment and input from the community. And so that is a question that you might want to pose to the city council because they are the final decision. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Then we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:44 p.m. Or actually, I take that back. We are not closing this public hearing. We are going to keep this public hearing open through the July 11 meeting. And at that time, we will continue the conversation. And at that meeting on July 11th, that is when the vote will take place. So I would like to entertain a motion from the commissioners to keep the public hearing open until the July 11 meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to keep it open until the July 11th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second that.
It has been moved and seconded that we will keep this public hearing open until the July 11 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Is there any further discussion regarding that motion? Hearing-
I just want to
Yes,
tell everyone here, thank you
For coming.
for
absolutely.
showing up. This
Absolutely.
is what we need. Because this is a city of the residents, a city of the community. And we need your input on these things. Because our city is going to grow, but we want it to be the city that our residents want.
Well,
So
and
thank you all.
And I would like to thank you as well, and I want to express that the sentiments that I've heard tonight, those are the same things that brought my husband and I to this community 4 years ago. And so we are definitely listening, and we are going to continue to search for ways to create the city growth that we both need and deserve, but to have it done in such a fashion that it not only makes sense, but that it is done extremely well, continuing to attract people to the community and having buy-in from the residents of the community. We want the people of this community to continue to work with us. It is not our desire on any level to be working against you. So we thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight.
And thanks for the emails too.
Yes,
the
and-
Letters were great. Thank you.
Yes.
These are emails that I received regarding this particular public hearing. It probably took me about 35 or 40 minutes to print them off today. And I appreciate hearing from each and every one of you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So the decision to move it till July 11th, what does that mean?
Let me, if you would, I will have the city planner address that in the report. And so you will have the answer to that question right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. There is an important part of context here that has been missing up to now. So let me try and fill in the blanks here. The Hamilton Group came in front of the city many, many months ago. Who can tell me how long ago they've been? November, okay, so it's been 5, 6, 7 months here with a proposal for development on this property. And they met with the Planning and Zoning Commission, they met with the City Council. I understand they met with the neighbors, I wasn't at that meeting. And they've actually met 2 or 3 or more times to flesh out a concept. And the land use plan, as Paul Genato was good enough to point out, it's that colored map up on the front wall off on the right. And it's important to understand that the land involved here has 3 different designations on it. There's about 10% of it, don't hold me to the numbers, there's a slice of it on the west side that's guided for commercial. There's another slice in the middle, maybe another 10 or 15% of it that's guided for medium density residential that in the zoning code allows 3 to 4 unit structures. In other words, duplexes or townhouses. That's the medium density. And then the other 80% of it is zoned for single family, like what the surrounding neighborhoods are. The other part of the context is that the city has been planning for decades, for as long as I've been around Orinoco planning, that there's going to be a sewer plant that will bring municipal sewer here, which is one of the key considerations, that allows greater density, that allows, instead of having 1 or 2 acre lots or even the 20,000 square foot minimum you have now, to have much smaller lots. And that's been an assumption and a given for a long time here, that is coming to Orinoco. And in fact, the city is in the process of considering what that lot size should be in the future so that it's an appropriate and reasonable lot size to be served by municipal sewer instead of individual septic systems. So that change is going to happen. So the vacant property you see around you, it's been known for, again, for decades, that it's not gonna develop as 1 and 2 and 3 acre lots. It's gonna develop at urban densities. Maybe it won't look exactly like Rochester or Stewartville or Byron or Pine Island, but it will be in that range of urban densities. That's coming. That's a given. That's going to happen. And so that's the context of this. And the variances that are being requested are to say, right now, the minimum lot size in the city is 20,000 square foot for each lot, but we know it's going to be lower than that. Will it be 7,000 or 8,000 or 10,000 or square foot lots in the future? I don't know what will ultimately be, but it'll be something much lower than that 20,000. But they want to get the development approval now so that it can be developed, and then when that sewer pipe is available, they can hook up. So they need variances to give to what is the current standard of 20,000 square feet and put it at the, whatever, the 8 or 10,000 square feet. It's a perfectly reasonable and logical approach to develop, to say, we know something is coming, we're gonna plan for it, but we need to follow the rules. We need a variance to that lot size provision now, so that in 6 or 12 or 18 months, when we actually have lots go online and are hooked up to sewer, we know that it can happen. And the other part of the context here is that Hamilton has met several times, as I said, with the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council, and received generally favorable response. There was concern, the initial proposal had an apartment building, which many thought was perfectly appropriate for Orinoco. There's a crying need for housing of all kinds. But in response to the concerns that were had, that apartment building was taken out of the development. It now consists of the latest plan of commercial and some townhouses and some quads and some duplexes, and largely the vast majority of the property is single family. And not just single family at those smaller lot sizes, but starting with smaller lot sizes in the middle and getting bigger to match the lot sizes that are in the existing neighborhoods east of it. In my experience in planning, and I've been doing this kind of planning for 40-some years in the state, it was a very sensitive and appropriate response to concerns in the community and to the issues at hand here. So that latest concept, which removed the apartment building, and again, has some commercial townhouses, quads, duplexes, and mostly single family. They submitted a detailed set of plans to us. And myself and the city engineer and another one of my colleagues reviewed those plans, and we said, this is consistent with what we've seen now for 6 months. This is consistent with the latest plans, and that I believe all of you have seen, certainly this Planning and Zoning Commission. But there are details that are missing. We don't have a grading plan that shows exactly how they're going to push the earth around. And we don't have the easements in place for the trail and for the utilities to get there. We need to see those. We need to see how that's going to be done before we can present it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so we reviewed those plans and sent a detailed memo to the developers on May 31st. And we met with them last week on the 4th, I believe it was. Don't.
Who is we?
Oh, we, I'm
Because
sorry.
we did not meet with them.
No. This was internal. Having received a set of plans, the city engineer and myself and Jason, the city administrator, met with the developer and their engineers to go through this detailed list of issues that we had with the plans, and said, can you do this? And they said, absolutely, we can do that. We can provide that. But that set of plans is not ready for the Planning and Zoning Commission to review. And we said, we are considering this application incomplete, and therefore we're recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission continue the hearing from this June 13th meeting to the July 11th meeting. Now, because of the timing of all this, We get a set of plans, it takes us time to review it. It takes time to meet with the developers and tell them what we would like to see. That overlapped with the timing of when notices were sent out to all of you. So many of you, I assume your property owners that got notice, said there's going to be a public hearing on June 13th, and they're going to consider these variances and these plans. By the time that notice was already out, we were meeting, reviewing, recommending that, no, it really can't go for a detailed review on June 13th. It needs to be put off to July 11th. So here we are. You've expressed your concerns, and unfortunately, we don't have the latest detailed plan to show you because it's being worked on as we speak. We gave them a deadline of the 27th of this month, I believe, so in a couple of weeks, to say we need to have those plans back so that we can then indeed prepare a report for the Planning and Zoning Commission for their July 11th meeting, and that's where we sit. So that's the long, sad backstory of how we got here tonight. But trust us, and that the Planning and Zoning Commission means that they want to review this carefully, deliberately, but they want to have our advice. I'm the city planner and the city engineer to be able to give them a full report on what we see in the plans. Again, based on what you've seen previously, the plan that comes forth, I don't think will be a surprise to any of you as what it looks like. And in fact, it may be less dense and less intense than the latest version you would have seen. So that's where we sit at this moment. So your recommendation to continue this hearing is appropriate, and we will get you a full report for next month.
So that is an answer to the question from the Zoom. And I just want to go on the record at this moment as saying, because you just made the statement that we have been largely favorable toward this development project. There are definitely aspects of it that we are favorable toward because we understand that city growth is in our future and it is necessary. One of the things that I voiced concern over at the last time that the Hamilton Group was here was that their plan that they were proposing to us, that they were not locked into what those lots were actually going to become over the course of time, and that they had built in a flexibility for themselves to create something else after this commission had given an approval to it. And that is still a great concern to me.
Yeah, and that's a concern to me too, that we should be crystal clear what's in the plan and what it would be ultimately approved by the city. I agree with you.
And they should be held to that plan if and when it is approved. Yes.
So we've been planning for the sewer systems, right? I get that.
Yes.
But our roadways, those roads that connect that area are not feasible for that many people. And have you driven on them? I mean,
It just
you can
tonight.
plan for underground, that's great.
Yeah.
But there's nothing planned for above for transportation, kids, buses. Have you thought about buses? I mean, we already have problems with districting of schools. The last thing we need is more problems with districting of schools and more buses. And there's a massive hill right there. Somebody's gonna get hurt.
The streets will be, I'm not the engineer, but the city engineer will review those plans and make sure that the streets are designed and built to standards to handle it.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Beth McNeil from 725 Timberline Drive. And our road, I understand, will then go through. We have no sidewalks. We can't even get it shoveled by the snowplow down for more than one lane. In the wintertime, we have one lane. And then you're gonna say that you wanna connect more traffic up that way. You can't fix the dip that floods every time it rains on Second. You have all of these things that need to be taken care of. And what I don't understand is there was no transparency. We didn't get a letter until they said they were having a public hearing. And now you're telling me that you're going to, it's within a month that you have to make a recommendation. There was no transparency on the sewer system. what we were gonna pay, all these things that there is no transparency from the city council at all. And I said it on, the only way I even knew about this, other than getting a letter, was on Facebook. And that's obscene, because I can't even begin to tell you how many people aren't on Facebook and aren't gonna look. And if I didn't know to look, then I wouldn't even have known about this. You didn't send me a color copy of this. You didn't send, and I'm not specifically saying you guys, I'm just saying that I didn't get a color copy. I got a nice little white sheet that says there's a public hearing. It didn't tell me what it was about. I had to go on Facebook and look for that. I mean, I shouldn't have to, as somebody who built a house on an almost acre lot, have a fourplex in my backyard. You're gonna disrupt not only the children and the dogs walking and people walking, but you're also gonna disrupt the wildlife that we have all come to see in Orinoco, because this is what we came to Orinoco for. Everyone else that spoke, no transparency, absolute zero. And that is unacceptable, Mayor. Unacceptable.
City council. Miss somebody that's sitting on this. No? Thank you very much. Is there somebody else that, yes?
I would just like clarification, wrapping back to one of the first things that you said when you were mentioning that, okay, we've been here for decades. I haven't lived here for decades, so this was not brought up to me. I didn't know, but as the sewer system comes in, you said that it's coming and basically this has to happen. Is that a financial thing? Can the city not afford the new system? So the only way to pay for it, like he was mentioning, is to have high density, and that's, or just because it's possible now, does that mean that we're handcuffed to it and we say, well, we can, so we've got to? Like, I don't understand the logic or the reasoning behind that going, okay, it's here now, so it has to happen. Like, so could you walk us through, I guess, that thought process a little bit more on the aspect, because it doesn't seem like it's just because we do have the ability to do it, doesn't mean that we have to, unless you have another reason that is a logical, factual, this is the reason we have to consider this. You know, but I'd love to hear a little bit more of that, because my logic doesn't agree to go just because we can't.
Well, it's a longer, separate story.
I inject the homes. Rylan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard in the EDA, you say that the plan for the sewer needs 10 homes per year. 10 homes, is that correct or not?
That was an analysis that we did back in 2021. Yeah, that was a very, very conservative.
I know, I'm just saying, you compare with what they're planning for this, it's a huge difference in numbers.
And that's a good question.
Yeah, this is way above what we need.
Okay.
Yes, financially survive.
Yeah, we have worked with the financial planner, and I'm sure once this yay or nay, whatever happens, whatever numbers, we'll probably run those cash flows again, but that's, we took a very conservative approach. And part of that was just to make sure that we had enough in capital investment fund to cover the shortcomings of starting up, with the expenses, because we're charting waters that we haven't done before. And, you know, property insurance has doubled because of what insurance rates are coming. Now we have this multi-million-dollar facility infrastructure lift station. So there's a lot of challenges ahead of us. And that'll be borne in sewer rates and whatever the case may be. So,
But if I may, the question you asked is a longer, separate story, but the short answer is, for many years, the city has been planning to have sewer and pursued studies and grants and a lot of discussion. And finally, we're able to get the sewer plant built that does allow for anticipated growth and smaller lots. I mean, municipal sewer is what drives urban densities versus sitting on an acre or 2 or 3 acre lot with your own septic system. That's the dividing line. You got sewer, you can have smaller lots. You don't have sewer, you're gonna have bigger lots. So it's been an assumption in Orinoco for many years that those smaller lots would come. And how that will actually happen now that the plant is in place and there's pipes in the ground is that somebody wants to hook up and connect to it. They can do that. And again, with the lot sizes to be changed sometime in the next months, I don't know exactly when, that would be at those urban densities. The city is not gonna force anybody to say, you have to divide your lot and create smaller lots. No, it's gonna come on a voluntary basis, like this development proposal. They've assembled some property, they presented a plan, it can make use of the sewer. If it gets approved, then it will get hooked up at those densities. And yes, there's considerable investment that has been made in that plan, and there is a plan and there's been projections of how to pay that off. But it's not just a money game. This is the vision for our community. We want to be a sewered community. We want to grow, and that plan is a tool to help the community get there rather than the other way around. And we aren't serving the plant is serving us. So again, it's a longer story, and I'm sure Ryland or others could fill you in on the whole history of that.
So, but it is primarily more of what we want to, because we can.
Right.
Like aspect of things of going, okay, well, we can play big city. And we can go versus, because when you're talking the vision, I know that I have a lot of friends and people that wants to move to Orinoco, are looking for lots of things like that, that we were mentioning the $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 lots, like, that's not a problem for them. They're looking for it. There's just no space here. Like, in our neighborhood, I know as soon as the house goes up, it's for sale or it's sold in a week, and that kind of a thing. So I feel like there is other options as well, but obviously you've got more experience in this than I do in that space. So I appreciate you explaining that, that it's a preference more so than a need.
I would ask.
Who's in the back?
Sorry to speak that term.
Yes.
Yeah. There's somebody else that had their hand up way in the back.
I guess I had more of a question. In the future land use plan, I believe there was about 4 acres zone for R2 or covered for R2. If you look at the current proposal, you include the road there, that's about 12 acres that they're asking for. So again, I think that's not quite aligning with the future land use plan. So I'll look at your earlier statement that it's certainly aligning, asking for more.
Right, and so, yeah, they have expanded the area that would be that medium density. Yeah.
And then, Vice Chair, we don't see phase 2 here, and that's our main concern. Is going to keep expanding that way.
Yes.
I don't know that many of us moved here to be a sewered community. Just because a sewer allows for higher density growth does not mean that we should assume that that is what is right to do.
Right.
And it has been assumed for years, yet the zoning that has been available to residents who have invested and built homes in this community has said R1. And that is what it should stay.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Yes, Joy.
I'm a little hard of hearing, so all your conversations back there, I might not have picked up. So I'm going to do the appropriate thing and stand up here. So Paul and I were probably on the council together. In 2001, we started talking about city water, city sewer. At that time, I was told it would take 20 years before we would even get it. Because it was a hard thing on the council to have people agree on the council to proceed. In the meantime, we, as a council planning commission, approved developments like River Park, Cedar Woodlands, on the west side as well. And we commissioned and looked at development plans to be 3 to 5 acre, because we didn't have water and sewer. So that's not a point of yes, no, that's just a point for your reference when you're asking how come Orinoco looks like what it looks like. It's because 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the council could not come together to present water and sewer municipal.
Thanks, Joy.
Thank you.
Good.
Just one other comment. I'm sorry, sir, Phil, I don't know your last name.
Carlson.
Sorry. You said at least twice, I think, that the assumption was that we would become a higher density city. We moved here almost 9 years ago out of Rochester and bought the almost acre lot and built there. I didn't do that so that my property value can go down when you put in a fourplex that my road, I can't even drive on in the wintertime. And it just seems like it's a very rushed thing. You haven't thought about the infrastructure, or maybe you have, and I'm just clueless because I haven't read up on Facebook yet. But I just think that putting in that sewer system, they didn't take care of the things that they should have taken care of, and they just band-aided them, and then so I just think that's the whole thing. I'm sure all of the people, that make these decisions, let there be some transparency. Why are we rushing for a July 11th? Does the Hamilton Company have to have this done by a certain time? Why are we rushing it when we just found out about it? Because we had to search for ourselves. So I guess I never moved here with the assumption that it was going to be. It was always R1, and that's what we were comfortable with. Can we move? Sure. But is my property value going to go down because the roads and everything, the sewer can handle it, but the roads can't handle that much traffic? So that's kind of our concern as old people. We're the only ones on Timberline that are old. So there's lots of new little families and little kids out on their trikes and their bikes, and there's no sidewalk. And it's a skinny little road that can, in the good months, get 2 cars down. So, but it is what it is.
And Madam Chair, I'd be happy to make comments. The public hearing is closed, but if you want to have the conversation.
Well, Ari's got
The
something.
conversation is important and it's worth having, most
Ari's
definitely.
got his hand up. over
Yes,
there.
Ari?
Something, I've been listening a lot, and I have to say, appreciate you all. And as the only Greek in the room, I think, I have to say, I love democracy because we invented this. So thank you all for coming out. It's an amazing thing. And all I want to say is, I'm sorry if we didn't communicate enough. I know we met with Paul and the neighborhood groups and things like that. I've come to multiple meetings, planning and zoning, city council, even ones that we weren't on the agenda, just to listen. So we have been listening. We tried to be sensitive to everyone, the council, your comments, Phil and Joe's comments, the mayor's, your comments, Paul and the other people. So if you didn't hear about it till now, I'm sorry. We did start last year. The hurry is, my family did pay for the land. We don't want to sit on the money. Of course, we want to develop it, try to get a return on our investment. So that's one reason, or just personal. But we want to do what's good for Orinoco too. We do not want to make this into downtown Chicago. We are not going to be some big city. We try to be very sensitive to the neighbors, to Paul, your house. We have big lots across from you. We listen to you, almost the same size as yours. We did do it, as Phil suggested, with your future land use plan to go from west to east, smaller to bigger lots and things like that. So I guess I'm frustrated hearing it from everyone, but I love hearing it too. So I just want to say we're here listening. We want to do what's right for Orinoco. We want Orinoco to grow. It has to, but it has to grow smartly, and you're right. Is it accelerated? Yeah. But we want to do it in the right way, and we have been very sensitive to everyone's comments. We tried to be anyway. Doesn't mean we're going to do everything that everyone says. Of course not. That's what we're about. We all compromise on certain things. So thank you all again for coming out. I'm always around. Call me. I'll hang around afterwards. I'm in Rochester all the time. Please. answer any questions.
Well,
I
you
can.
don't live here.
Let me just,
No, I live in Rochester.
let me just, if I can respond to this comment, just on the sewer system. I can tell you that there have been exhaustive, detailed engineering studies of how to get the sewer system in place. So it's not something that's just been slapdash together. And yes, that's one of the things that when we reviewed the plans just 2 weeks ago, we want to make sure that it is all designed carefully and that in fact so.
I think the sewer system was way more thought out and more communicated, except for the price or how we were gonna be charged for it, than this. Again, like, okay, they said that they've been working on it for months. Well, they bought the land in what, November? That's very few months. We're in June. So we're talking 7 months. And that should have all been, communicated. We should have been getting letters like we got from the sewer, about the sewer. This street's gonna be closed, this street's gonna be closed. Okay, great, now you're gonna stick a fourplex in my backyard and call it a day because, it didn't get communicated. I'm sorry, it didn't.
So if I could respond to that, just to let you know, in all transparency, I think it came to council once. And the reason is if they're meeting guidelines, or in their case, they didn't need to meet with council yet. They did come to planning and zoning. They stated their intentions. We saw some preliminary stuff, but as we're doing this tonight, it won't come to council until we give a recommendation. So it's not really the council not being transparent in that respect. But I totally agree with what you're saying. Transparency, so we understand that, hey, this is coming, so we can start to look into it. But totally agree with you. And I think maybe it might be something with our processes that we have to look at the city. This came up at the last council meeting as well.
Could I ask a question to the gentleman that is representing Hamilton? So I guess my question to him is, one, do you live in a small town or do you live in Rochester? And two, would you put what you're proposing in your backyard? And if the answer is no, then I don't think anyone else would want that either.
I grew up in a small town, Austin, outside of Austin, Minnesota, so I do understand. I live in Rochester now. I do have townhomes moving in close to me now where I live. And that's why I am sensitive to it. I have kids. My kids got redistricted with schools, things like that. We've all been through it. We are real people. We are not some big developers. I mean, I'm sorry, we're not. We come here, we come from a small town. Jamie Shanley, my partner, who I think is listening, has lived in Oronoco for 20 years at least. So she is sensitive to it. It means something to her. And again, you can believe me. I say from our heart that we want to do something nice. So yes, I don't live in Oronoco now, but I do understand everyone's concerns. We all have kids. We all have property values. We get it. We want to help grow your property values, which I think it ultimately will.
The lady in the pink shirt, you had your hand up a long time.
I have a question. I'm really confused. What I don't like is people bought these properties how it was zoned, the way it is zoned, right? So how can you as a committee then change it after they've put all their money and invested in it? And it can just be changed. I don't understand that. Can there be legal ramifications from owners? Can they get an attorney and fight it? I mean, I don't understand how you can buy a property and it's zoned one way. So per se, Brainerd Speedway, right? They've been there for eons and eons and eons, and they sell the property next to it. Those people can't change Brainerd Speedway. It will always be that way. That's how it is. So they know that when they buy that, that's what it is. So I don't understand how we can even be in a situation like this where it is zoned this way. When you bought the property, this is how it was zoned. I'm confused again.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening for owners.
Well, Bill, you want to?
And maybe I can explain that, the state gives the city of Oronoco the ability to enact land use regulations, zoning. So the authority rests with the city council here they can set the zoning map, the zoning standards, et cetera, in the city, and they have the right to do that. But they have to follow a process. They have to follow the constitutional process of due process, of holding public hearings, of having it posted public, of having a public hearing like we did just tonight. That wasn't because it's a great idea that the folks of Orinoco thought of. It's in the US Constitution. You have to have a due process. So the short answer is, yes, the zoning can change, and it frequently does. And cities evolve and change all the time, and that zoning can and does change over time, but according to a process that has to be done legally and fairly. And not to be the bad guy here, but all of you are living in homes that were once either farmland or prairie. And somebody who was here maybe didn't like that your neighborhood came in. This is open land. It's been on the plan, the land use plan. It's been on the zoning map for years to be developed. So some number of homes are going to go there, and it will change, and it will be significantly more traffic than you've seen to date. And the question is, how many? Will it be 20 or 30 or 40 new homes, or will it be 100, or will it be 86? Or that's going to be part of the discussion. And I know that the city wants to be transparent and communicative and invite you into the conversation as that decision is made. But something will happen on this property, and in the coming 10 or 20 or 30 years, many other vacant properties in the city.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
My name is Ashley Rutledge. I live at 605 Sunnyview Lane Southwest. Of course, here supporting our friends over in Cedar Woodlands. And I just want to make the comment, I don't think anyone here or visiting on Zoom feels opposed to homes coming in. I think the problem is, at least from my perspective, what's happening, what's rezoned now behind the houses across the street from me, and what's happening over there in the Cedar Woodlands area is that this was zoned R1. People are comfortable with R1, and suddenly it's R2, and that just feels alarming. So it's not that, oh, I moved here and now we can't build any more houses. And I understand all of our homes were 1 point farmland, and yes, like it's going to happen, there's going to be growth. But what I just feel like is most startling is that it's R1 and then suddenly it's R2, and we're looking at, multifamily. It sounds like it was an apartment complex and now it's not, but who knows what's going to happen over behind my neighbor's house that's also R2. And so I just think, I understand there's going to be growth. I think everyone understands there's going to be growth. We're a city that has a sewer system, yes, but just going R1 to R2 just feels a little shocking.
Thank you, Ashley. Yes.
I think frustration as a homeowner is mostly coming from the fact that we feel like we hear about it at the end of the discussion. Like there's all these discussions going on between all these people, and then and then there's, not you guys, and then we're notified, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this huge plan's in place. No one has heard about it. And then when we want to express how we feel, it's like at the very end, right before the decision is going to be made. And I think we would like to be included. We'd love to talk more about it, and we'd love to discuss things, but it feels like we're always being reactionary when something is trying to be changed, because we just don't know about it ahead of time. And then we feel like we all have to band together and come together so that it's not a surprise. And at the end, it's just like, oh, well, too bad. You didn't hear about it. And you didn't show up to talk about it.
Well, and I'm going to ask other people to speak, but I want to respond to that. One of the things, I am the vice chair of this commission, Kathy Brandt Rucker, who is the chair. She asked me to pass clipboards tonight to let anybody know that if you would like to be part of public input for the new code that we are actually developing right now, I have a couple of clipboards right here with blank sheets. So before you leave tonight, if this is a conversation that you want to be involved in, please come up and give us your name and your contact information, and we will be reaching out to you. And this will take care of a couple of the issues. It's gonna assist with the transparency issue. You're gonna be part of the conversation much earlier on. And it is just going to bring you into the loop at a more significant level. So we want to partner with you. We want to hear from you. Mr. Tronson.
I have a question, I guess, for either the city person or developer. When you build this, when you go into this lot, your roadways inside the development are going to be set to the state standard of what the roadway's gotta be.
City standards.
City standards to do that the state require, or state, city, whatever. But the question coming off Minnesota Avenue to turn into those and everything else, as more traffic comes there, you're gonna need turn lanes. And maybe need some turn lanes off going back into that development as it gets bigger. Does that fall on the developer, developing it? Because in other words, when I come down 18th Avenue here, they've got two new housing develops on 18th Avenue here. And they require them on both sides of the road, put turning lanes in. And the developer to put that in to be able to do that, so versus the city. So I guess my question is, the roads inside the thing will fit, but the roads outside are a little smaller to handle that traffic. So what responsibility do they take on? And the other thing is, maybe some nice townhomes like in Rochester, because those people go south in the winter. And it's pretty quiet. So I mean, it's not to think about, but I would like to think about the roadways and who pays for the roadways to improve the turning lanes, because you're gonna need turning lanes on Minnesota Avenue going back into that development. Is that the city's responsibility, or is that role kind of in with the development?
Great question.
I'll just.
Please.
Development agreement. I don't know the right answer, but those are all good questions. And I think in the letters that I've been reading through, there's been different things I just want to touch base on. Was about the traffic study. And we understand Joe's looking at the traffic study. And I personally would envision right-hand lanes off of Second Avenue and also Cedar Point Road, but I think that's just, I see that happening from a pure safety standpoint of turning. The other thing is speed limits. We go 30, 40, 50, and I vision those speed limits that 50 going to 40, 30 goes further back with the Dollar General store and everything else. I think that's just gonna promote, all of our frontage roads are all 40 miles an hour. There's no reason why that stretch going to 100th Street shouldn't be 40 miles an hour. The other thing about transparency, I agree with you. Transparency is needed, but at the same time, just to talk about EDA has been, we've been organized about a year, but we really got going last September. And, we're trying to be transparent. Part of that transparency was getting feedback from the city. We sent out the surveys, paper and internet surveys. It was a multi-page survey. I appreciate everybody that did fill those out. And that was in January. We also had an in-person community engagement. We had about 45 people there. It was a continuation of that survey. And our EDA director is putting that report together from the survey and also from the in-person. And there'll be a detailed report coming back of all those demographic questions that you answered. But just to highlight one particular one was what's really needed in Orinoco. And the top three things was a grocery store, a restaurant, and housing. So those, we're all wanting to have the same thing. But one thing that hasn't been really talked about too much is senior housing. There is a pent up demand for townhomes, people that want to move out of their big homes into townhomes. Maybe not the quads because they may have steps, but definitely the townhomes that are built flat. So there is a need for senior citizens. We've had people move to Rochester because there's no place here in Orinoco that wants senior home. So they want to come back and they're excited to hear that there's twin homes. So the lots, we know the demographics are changing from 9-10 years ago with big lots. And the market studies are saying that millennials, younger people don't want to deal with mowing grass. They want smaller lots. I'm getting tired of mowing too. Maybe some of you are as well, but I think the smaller lots is something they're going to be moderate size, 65, 7,500 square feet. Very typical of any Rochester that has a $500,000 home sitting on it. It's sitting on a 75 to 90 foot frontage. And that'll happen. It's happened over here in Riverbend and States. I think those are 85 to 100 foot fronts, but there's some beautiful homes over there and they're close together. More so than a lot of different of our developments that we have today, so I think there is a need for smaller lots, and that's gonna help people coming to Orinoco to enjoy what we have. We have some beautiful parks. We have a huge 90-acre park over Lake Shady Bed that we want to develop. We're not fence in and create that so we can have a connection to the west side under the bridges. So there's a lot of recreational that we can do, but it takes tax funds to help that happen if you want that to improve the life, so. Again, thank you for coming. The wastewater information, everything we've been done for the last 6-7 years is out on the website with all of our public information, PowerPoints. We've had public information meetings and the cost. It's all been out there. It's on the website and we've tried to advertise, but sometimes you gotta look for it too, but that's probably a weak excuse, but at the same time, the information's there. But more importantly, I think you need to watch, and I just, from a transparency standpoint, I think we really need to be engaged in our council, the agendas, the planning and zoning, the water and sewer minutes, the meetings, the agendas are out there. We're trying to get them out there in time, but please become more engaged in learning what's going on in our city. We appreciate that. And thanks for coming tonight also. Thanks, Dan.
Grant?
Yeah, she's been.
So, Mayor, I appreciate your comments and things like that, and actually, that's what Hamilton explained to us the first time they met with us. I guess my concern though is use the land currently zoned as R2, to do something like that across the street from Cedar Point and Stigland's Motor Coach. There's property in this development that Ari and his family bought that's already R2. I think what we're asking is the ones that are R1 remain as such. One other comment that I do have that concerns me a little bit is, Mr. City Planner, you were talking about, well, this is, we've been developing this, so get on board or get out type of deal, where it sounds like to me. The reason that brings concerns to me, the way that you're talking that this is already advanced and down the line, is when we met with Hamilton, it was advised to us that they weren't purchasing the land, it was contingent on this zoning being changed. The fact that this has already been purchased in March, which we were unaware of until last week, tells me that they're further down the line and they may have approvals that we don't even know. And I get it, there's a process that plays out here with city council. You vote on this, that's the legal process. But this smells of something different, I'm gonna say that right now.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, there have been no final decisions,
I
so.
get that, I'm not arguing that, I'm just telling you, the way you laid that out, and the gentleman in the door said it very well. The septic, all this stuff is planned out, this is what we need this, whole development built all the way it is. The fact that that land's already purchased tells me different.
And I have to agree.
This lady's from here.
My husband will agree for tonight, but.
Thank you for your patience.
Earlier when you were presenting it, it sounded like it was already a done deal.
No, and I don't mean to imply that. I just mean that there have been discussions and it's moved on and, has evolved, in a couple of different steps, but no official review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and recommendation been made, nor decision by the city.
I think the other thing that's alarming is it sounds like you've been meeting since November, but we just heard about it at the end of May, and here we've come together and we're ready to go, and yet you're asking for more time. And you've been meeting since November, and we're just now hearing about it.
There's no sold sign. There's nothing that indicates that that land has been sold.
And I have to say with the letter that we received, it's a little vague. One of our neighbors who actually just moved here said that it came addressed from Rochester. Then it said that to send your emails or concerns to Jason Baker, who's actually out until June 24th. I understand he's getting married, but no one's watching that inbox. And then it said it said Zoom link available. Not saying where it's located. I had multiple people messaging me before we came. Where is this even at tonight?
To the wrong address.
He's seeing all the letters, I know. That communication, but he's been gone, so he's been making the effort to follow all the letters, the ones that were addressed to him, and he's very much engaged, married, but still engaged to the city work too, so.
But it's very vague, and it seems like it was almost done on purpose.
You're next.
No, and then the public notice that went out to all you is very standard, the kind of notice that gets sent to every homeowner for every development application in the state. So, should it have been, more robust communication? Certainly. But that notice, there was nothing unusual about it.
I will.
Okay, hold on just a second, everybody, please. There's a lovely lady that's had her hand up for a really long time, and I would love to hear from you. And then Steve, you'll be next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of my sentiments have already been echoed through this great conversation, but the one thing that I did want to say, and I'm Kanika Kushane, 1440 Cedar Point Road, my husband spoke earlier, is what troubles me is two things. One, this seems really rushed for us to be talking about. Our EDA is very new. The sewer system just came. Yes, that has been in the plans, but all of a sudden, this is really rushed. We need to get this passed. Fine. But there's also no trust. And I'm just gonna say it, we're talking about transparency, we're talking about communication, and I just also wanna throw out there, right now, there's no trust. And a lot of the neighborhoods are very reactive because of that. We're having a really hard time finding where communication is. We're having a really hard time knowing where the meeting minutes for city council are, and I know that doesn't include planning and zoning, but it's like, okay, I wanna watch the video, I have to go to YouTube. There's no letters that are coming, Facebook, city council, posts on Facebook, and that's how people are finding out. This is not how a city should be running. And the actions are speaking louder than the words. I hear what you're saying, but there have been so many things that have been done that we didn't know about. And we're looking for that detailed information. So if we could have that open communication, open transparency, and rebuilding of trust, I think would go a really long way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, did you have a
Yeah, I
comment?
mean, when you mentioned the public hearing, you know how. When public hearings are sent out, because I've been monitoring ever since we moved here 15 years ago. And every one I look at, it's like, well, what is this about? And I know it's probably a state mandate. They probably did it this way to make sure government doesn't get interfered with. But frankly, because I've always had to investigate, call the city clerk or whatever and find out what is this really gonna be on it, you know, if I was interested or not. Which I don't know if this city council can look at trying to change that, get more transparency that you've been talking about, because it is very frustrating not to even know what these hearings are about, except, oh, it's about this address right here. That's really what you get out of it. And so to me, that's always been very frustrating. And as far as this whole development, what I heard in November, when they first came out with this, they mandated 2 weeks to have a turnaround from the city of Orinoco to update their codes. That's what they were demanding. So where does the trust come from, or lack of trust? Well, that's where the lack of trust comes from, when you have a developer come in and do that kind of demand.
But to be clear,
They didn't happen.
that didn't happen.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks for adding that, because I know. But when I heard that, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ever say developers are all
Yeah.
great people, because you know, this timeframe we've been here, we've had more than one that's been a little pushy. But that to me was extremely pushy.
Yeah.
And I just, I want people to hear that, you know, that's just part of the whole story.
Yeah, we slowed it down and changed a lot of stuff that was going on from the first time.
Right.
So-
And I hear what you're saying about the public hearings and having more detail. You know, that, to me, that falls on city administration, planning and zoning, whomever. People need more detail.
But it is that communication
It's the
aspect.
communication.
Communication, absolutely.
It's just a citizen standpoint.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've also got a slip here from JT Kozer. He
brought that
Is
back
that-
up here from before.
Oh, okay, so this is already handled?
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, Paul, in the back of the room, Rick?
Couple comments if I made, gentlemen, with the city of Phil.
Yes, yeah, Phil Carlson.
Phil, the question I have for you is how long roughly would you say you've been, knowing a sewer was coming in? You were talking years, you were talking a decade, you were talking two. When did you start preparing?
Well,
Roughly.
I haven't been in charge of the sewer project. I'm the planner, not the engineer, but certainly I've been working with the city for, I don't know, Paul, when did I show up?
We started in
Six,
March
7
of
years ago, but the sewer itself has been studied for many years.
Like about,
March in 2015 is when we started the Water and Sewer Committee. We had discussions in 2002 that we've had about the water.
Yeah.
It's been, there's been cycles going.
The first one, we talked about water and.
So my next question would be, what's the date on the most current future, land use plan?
That was, I believe it's 2020 was the date.
So if you've been working on the sewer for a decade or two, why wasn't the current future land use plan adjusted or gotten ready to receive the sewer? All the upcoming stuff, we should have adjusted the current plan, so why don't we just stick with that current plan until you've had time to adjust it again?
In 2006, we updated the future land use plan. And the one before that, Paul, was
2002.
probably 20 years before that. And so, yeah, so
So
it's,
why wasn't the current one adjusted knowing the sewer's coming for 20 years?
yeah, I don't know, I was done with the city council in 2006.
And my last point would go to Ari. The trust side comes in, we met with you back in November. You folks said you would meet with us again, and you, to be blunt, you blown us off.
You're right, we have not met with you before, and I apologize. I thought we took care of most of the questions here in planning and zoning. And again, if we missed, I wish you would call us up and say, we'd love to meet with you again. So we did not reach out, did not reach out to you, I apologize. But I have been here and please reach out anytime again.
I have a letter from the Village of Orinoco received a letter in 1972. Yes. To have a village sewer and water from Olmsted County Health Department. So 50 years later, in March of 2022 is when we started our treatment plant infrastructure. So it's been a long time coming. We no longer have the distinction of being the largest unsewered city in Minnesota. Somebody else has that now. So we're charting new waters. And, you know, without the sewer project, we really couldn't talk about development. But back in 2020 is when we put our future land use, when you see it there, that was all predicated by the sewer projects. And so that was influencing some of the decisions in our future land use.
So if it's predicated with that, why are we keeping it? Why are we trying to change it so quick?
I'm sorry?
If that's how it was set up, why are we keeping the current future, land use plan and keeping the zones that it was predicated on?
And that's a good question. Maybe Phil can comment too, but future land uses, these are, they're ideas, they're concepts. You know, that, you can't say that orange line is gonna stay down there. It may move a little bit, or B2 may get smaller, but it's just an idea, the concept, the future. That's what we call our future land use plan.
And maybe I misunderstood, but I thought you just mentioned that that was drawn up knowing sewer was coming in. So
Yeah,
already planned.
yeah, but the specific standards like the lot size were not in place. That was always going to be a future step, which is what the Planning and Zoning Commission is working on right now. Here it is 2024. But to answer your question, that future land use map was developed over many, many months, working with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. And it was set, and it is a concept. It's generalized. It's like, well, we want to have this kind of uses here and transition to this and this and that. But as Ryland said, a specific property owner comes in and says, yes, this is what it says. We've got a plan that we would like you to consider. And when they do, they can request, and it requires a change. And it requires a specific decision to change that land use map in some way. So it's not a given. It requires discussion, public hearing, et cetera, to change it. And just to put the timing in context, there is, in state law, when a city receives a zoning application, the city has 60 days to take final action on that. And unless they say, we need more time, then they can take another 60 days. So 120 days or 4 months total from the time a plan is put in front of the city to the time the city council must make a final decision on that. So the 7 months we've been talking about now is longer than what is anticipated in state statute. But that's from the time an official application is made. The informal meetings go back to November, that's different, but still, the timing, and then again, I do this work for 8 other cities in the state and receive development applications. And it's frequently that a set of plans comes in, we review them, we send out notice to the neighbors, we have the Planning Zoning Commission, City Council act on it, and it's 6 to 8 weeks that those decisions are made. That's a very normal time frame for this kind of thing.
And in the interim here, with those clipboards that are being passed around, once again, just to remind you, that is if you want to be part of the group that has input to the new code, the new city code that is being developed, be sure to put your name and contact information on there, and you will be part of these conversations at the ground level. So, thank you.
If for those of us that are online that are interested, should we put our name in the chat that can be added to that clipboard?
Or if you
Yeah,
would,
you can just call it out.
Send an email.
would you send it in the form of an email, please? And you can send it to Wendy, WENDY, at Wendy Lee, LEE Phillips, PHILLIPS.com. Wendy at wendyleephillips.com. Go ahead and send your contact information. Let me know that you are wanting to be part of the public input for the new code, and I will make sure that our chair reaches out to you. Thank you for that.
I have a question about if we have our septic in now, or we have our sewer in, and we're wanting to be a more modern city, could we do that maybe on technology side as well? Like, I hire software engineers for a living. I can find some teenagers that could like completely revamp.
Just know how to step into the 21st century.
Making it something that would be easier. When we moved back from Seattle, like I was working at Microsoft before, and then when I left that company, we moved back here and we loved it, except for the fact that I said, we're in the Stone Ages. I was like, I can't find anything. So having something to where things like this, where we go, okay, this is awesome, and I love that we're gonna have an opportunity to be a part of it, but only the people that are here are the ones that are able, the people that actually heard about it. We didn't get an email, like letters over where we live. We've heard about it through the grapevine. Nobody could figure out where it was. I went to the wrong address because the address that they had was not the correct address because it was word of mouth, and you took it off as a Facebook page. So like just cleaning that up
Yes.
to where you could go, hey, City of Orinoco, here's a notice that we have something clear that we can sign up, put our information in, and now you have an automated email list that you can go out. This is what we're doing. This is how we go. And then
I love that.
click, you're done.
Then it's not in my email inbox either, right?
Exactly.
Thank you. Morgan?
I would just like to say that would be amazing, because Mr. Mayor, you said earlier that we should be engaged as a community. And we're asking to be engaged, but when we can't find the things, that's what we're frustrated about. I mentioned in the letter that I wrote that it's very frustrating that you see something on Facebook that says special meeting tonight, which also sounds kind of shady, like special meeting, agenda to follow. And then there's never an agenda, or it's posted not in time for us to attend or listen in. And then we are also, we have other things going on, working, kids, like we got a sitter tonight, and my husband missed our daughter's softball game so that we could attend this. We want to be involved, but when we don't get notice in enough time, then we can't show up. But look at what can happen, like great things like this. We all have niches and we all have a lot of cool things that we can do. So we want to be involved.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a date and time for these code meetings?
That is something that the chair is going to reach out to everybody that gives her contact information, and she is going to give that to you. I'm not aware of what that date is yet myself. So
Soon or?
I'm thinking it's gonna be sometime within maybe the next couple of weeks to 3 weeks, possibly. But that is a guesstimate on my part, so
Right. Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Are there any more questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Just in the vein of technology, I'm Jeff Geske, I live at 855 Cedar Point Lane. We were directed to send emails to Jay Baker, and is away, and there's no confirmation that our emails were received. May I ask the Planning and Zoning Committee a simple question of I saw it in print off, and thank you for showing that to us. Approximately how many did you receive, and were you able to read the written complaints that we submitted preceding this meeting?
I read most of them, but the ones that were sent to the city administrator that were then forwarded to me and I believe the other planning and zoning commissioners, they were actually given to us in one long PDF because there were so many that I've got sheets in here that probably have 6, 7, 8 letters on them that were just forwarded to me very recently. And so I didn't get to all of them, but I will read each and every word on those emails that I have received. And I believe that there was a very great effort made to make sure that they got from Jason's inbox to the people that were actually here in town for this meeting tonight. I do believe that that was effective. So yes.
We did receive 27 letters, I'm aware of.
Christine Janetto, 1090 Cedar Drive. I just have a quick question. Now that the hearing is extended to July 11th, will you be open to receiving more emails or letters from people who haven't been able to?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Or is there a deadline for that prior to the July 11th meeting? I just want to make sure that if people felt that they missed that deadline, that they could have the ability.
They absolutely
We
have
wanna
the
hear from
ability
Yeah,
and
yeah, oh, yeah.
And
Please.
you are welcome to send them to Jason. I know he will be forwarding them because he'll be back sometime around the 24th. Is that right? And if you continue to send them to his inbox, then he will be able to forward those or have Renee forward those. You might want to copy Renee on those so that she has an ability just to go ahead and forward them even as she's getting bundles of them. And that way we've got time between now and July 11 to make sure that we're up to speed on the conversation that you are really desiring to have with us.
Yeah.
And thank you for that question. Thank
I
you.
would suggest like today, Tuesday, at 2 p.m. is the deadline for this meeting. I would suggest the same, July 9th at 2 p.m. That gives the time to collect it and make sure that the commissions get to see it too.
Mhm.
So what, in all this, on the 11th, when are the people going to know what they're even looking at? I mean, you can hold the next meeting, but is there gonna be a new drawing, a new plan prior to that to everybody so that you know what you're looking at to do that? Because if you don't have the new plan and you come to this meeting that night and they put the plan on the thing, you're right back to square one because people haven't had time to look at it. So I'm sure that you'll get it, and then the zoning and planning and zoning get it and they look at it. At which point, time and date, do you have it out so that it's put out, I don't know, if you put it on your website or however you're gonna do it to the people so they can look and say, this was the old plan, and put in red what's changed. In other words, there's no sense of redrawing on the board. If this was the old plan, what have you changed off your old plan to the new plan? And put that in red, so people can say, this is what we're looking for differently. It speeds up everybody's time and what they're looking for. Just my thought process.
If I can just add 2 cents to that. So, the process here is that when there are items in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I write a report to them that is then part of their packet and gets posted online. And that, is the goal, I know, of city staff is to have that posted and in their hands a week before the meeting. And so I told you the schedule that we have in working with the developer and their consultants that the end of the month, we'll get it, we'll review it, we'll write our report, we'll put it up. So that report should be available online at that time. And it's always my goal to try and explain things clearly, just like you said. Here's what we had, here's what you see, here's what this means. So.
Well, and Phil,
The city's website.
I'd like to thank you for getting this packet
Yeah, very good.
to us 7 days in advance. We have had many, many months of meetings where we got our packets the same day or 2 days in front of, and we barely have enough time to look at them. And so I appreciate you guys definitely creating a wider space for all of us to look at that information. And so we can continue to have a conversation with people in the community. You're welcome to reach out and ask if we've received our packet yet. And if there is a way, if there's a point person, and this is in no way violation of anything, because I'm shooting from the hip right now, and I'll be transparent about that, that I would like to be able to share the information that we receive with people in the community so that they are up to speed and they have the same amount of time to look at this information as we have to look at it, so that they are well informed, we are well informed. We can continue this great conversation process that I feel has been incredibly beneficial tonight, even though it's been challenging at moments. Some of the best stuff comes out of greatest challenge, right? And so I want to continue to foster that trust that all of you are looking for in your city entities that are serving you. And I would be open to helping be a facilitator in that process. And so I'm sure there'll be some conversations now with what I've just said that are gonna go on behind the scenes because of what I just said. But whatever it is that I can do legally and ethically, that is something that I would like to do with this community. So Paul.
Maybe there's a few point people in here who we could actually send the packets off to, so they could see what's in the packets monthly.
Well, and one of the people that comes to my mind would be Paul, because Paul, you have such depth of insight and experience. Yes. And I know that you've got a really full plate, Paul, and that's why you're not the chair of the commission anymore. But, and if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. But you would be a great filter to have this go through, because you speak the language and you can translate, you know, with the people that you're communicating with. If that's doable, great. If it's not, that's okay too. But you were just the first person that popped in my head for all of those obvious reasons that I just mentioned. So thank you.
There'd be just that much more transparency to be doing it that way.
Exactly. And that's what we're looking for. Yes, Steve.
You know, can it be posted on the calendar with the agenda? Like
It is.
That would be wonderful.
Be able to.
Then everybody has immediate access to it. I love that. And this is where our technology guy is gonna help.
What kind of a notification system do we have if you post something on the website? So you're saying it's gonna be posted. Is there anything, or do we just have to check 6 times a day?
Yeah.
Right.
We're trying to redo that, okay? It's so, yeah, your input is great, by the way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
The nice thing. we just-
Put down your email address on the survey.
When I was on council, I had an email list of all of the residents that wanted information. So I would email them every meeting I was going to, the agenda, and if they had questions, they could ask me. That's within the realm. They're not, you're not council member. I can have discussions. You can ask me. I mean, not me now. I think that really helped to keep the community part of the transparency that you're looking for. And perhaps you can contact one of your council members and say, can it be on your email list? Can you tell me at least just the agenda? I mean, back in 2000, we didn't have all the good, really great.
Well, I think if we're able to put the agenda plus the packet on the website so that people are able to view it, that it will take care of a lot of that. Absolutely, Joy. And it almost sounded like you were throwing your hat in the ring to run for city council again, girl.
I understand that.
Friendly Orinoco area now. So
She's looking for a duplex.
Yeah. What I was just gonna add, back when I first was here, Sandy was her clerk. And when we first implemented city water, she made email lists for everyone that was on city water. And we got, if there was a city water outage, whatever, she notified everybody. and that kind of stuff, right?
There's a newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter wasn't in paper, it was actually emailed to everyone.
That's great.
And it'd be great if we go back to that for multiple reasons, like you said, notify this kind of stuff,
Or something like that.
you know, and then people could volunteer whether they want to have their email on. Distribution, or not.
If you just put something on the landing page that's a Orinoco subscription list of saying, hey, go to the website, put your information in, and then everybody can go find it very easily right on the homepage, then they'll give you all their contact information, and then you make one click, here's all the updates, and it goes out to everybody in that space, because for me, I live off of notifications, I have so many emails and everything that's coming in and schedules that I'm doing, I'm not checking a list every day, I'm almost missing soccer games and stuff already with 4 kids, and so if I have something that will give me a push notification or anything like that, hey, planning, like the zoning plan is up, then I can go check it, right? You know, or doing something like that, or hey, this is going on with the water, or this is whatever. I just feel like it would make it a lot easier for you guys to say, oh, I missed that, and say, go to the website, put your information in, you're on the subscription list now, like, done.
Yay. I
Thank
like that.
Sounds like another committee.
Subcommittee.
I'm hearing all sorts of people like raising their hands, they're seeing it. That's great.
Okay, let's move on to
Okay, let me finish. Has everybody said everything they have to say and got their questions answered in regard to the proposed development? I'm gonna take that as a yes. So, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for just being open to this conversation. And I can see that moving forward, that this should continue to improve over the course of time. So thank you so much, all of you. This is for all of you, okay?
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Phil, for being here
Yeah,
tonight in
great.
person.
Thank you.
That was so incredibly helpful. Absolutely. So, very good. So we are going to move on in our agenda and we are moving into new business. And this is just a conversation around a lot split. And so I'm going to hand it over to you, Jim Phillips, to lead us through this conversation.
Brad, you're here, so.
I don't got anything as important as the Hamilton development, but. I came in to see if I can get a preliminary request approval to do a lot split. Reason being is I do not want to expend all the costs, only to find out the city's gonna shut it down. So I don't know if this is the correct form or who can give that approval or what kind of information you guys want to see.
Everybody's got this, so I
Okay.
printed that out for everybody to take a quick look at.
I think that handout is pretty straightforward.
Phil, you didn't get one, you wanted to,
Yeah.
get one to Phil too.
Well, and I received it, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
This one might be a little better. Pretty simple. I own a lot that's a little less than 4 acres, over in the Woodsview subdivision. And I want to do a lot split over there. To build a separate, residential home. And again, the whole purpose for me to be here and ask for that request is because I don't want to spend the money up front to find out that you guys are gonna shoot it down. I don't think it's an unreasonable request, looking for a preliminary approval. Sounds like I'm gonna be well under the, lot sizes that you guys are gonna mandate going forward. I need to get it surveyed to find out exactly just how much of it live there. I believe it's a little bit less than an acre.
If I may, Madam Chair, right now, the minimum lot size required in the city is 20,000 square feet.
Right.
There's a little less than half an acre. So if you're splitting off a lot that you think might be 3/4 of an acre.
Yep.
They're really, you know, on the face of it, I don't see a problem with it. Are there any wetlands or
No.
low areas or anything?
Matter of fact, you guys got a park right across the street from there.
Yeah,
And the new utility system just came through there. I tried to get this approved last year. So if it got approved, I could have had the stubs put in when they brought in the utility services, but I'm not gonna mention names. It was a difficult task.
I connected the letter, so everybody can read the letter, so.
Okay, perfect. I think the letter outlines everything to a T.
I think if you fall within the guidelines, within the.
Yeah, and
That's
he's got sewer that was put up right now, so he's already, that's already there. Okay, so you don't have to worry about a septic system or anything else that way to do that subdivision.
And,
That applies anymore.
and we can't really say we're giving you a preliminary approval, but we can tell you by looking at this, you fall within the zoning.
And it's great that Phil is here tonight too, to be able, because Phil is the one
So
that,
let me ask this question, what would shoot it down, if anything?
Not
it's just a matter of your neighbors that are.
Not bringing donuts.
Christ, I could have brought dinner and breakfast here shortly.
No, I'll just say that if it meets the dimensional standards and the lot area standards, and you can fit the structure on there that would meet the setbacks,
Yep.
then there shouldn't be, but I don't wanna
And that's why we have,
promise anything without, having looked at it.
Well, and if right now it is one lot and you've got one sewer line going in there, what would be the challenges with splitting it and then having to run a second sewer line?
will be separate, that will be going into it, so.
Okay, that was the only thing that
Yeah.
occurred to me.
And that's why I went to take a look and, it would all be separate on what's going on, so.
Okay. All right, that's all I needed to know. If I got any questions, Phil, I'll give you a call.
Yeah. I'll look at this tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
You got his email address, Jim? Maybe you could send him that email and he could read the whole history there.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay. So we're moving on to old business. The first thing is an update with the WSB project update. WSB is the firm that we are contracted with that is rewriting the city code. We had a Zoom update just a couple of weeks ago, and I was sick in bed with a fever, and my husband stuck my laptop in front of me, and I was present on the Zoom call, but I don't remember a thing about it. So I'm going to ask Jim, would you like to give an update of what took place in that Zoom meeting? And the only other thing was these clipboards that you just put your information on so that you can be part of the conversation as we are rewriting this city code. That was the only thing that I remembered, and it was because the chair told me about that yesterday, so.
On the WSB, just for an update off of it, we had the steering committee, meeting, and they went through 4 chapters that they've taken a look at so far. And kind of working their way through. The main thing that we're looking at is kind of a hot list of what there is, and one of them is, of course, gonna be, your lot sizes that you have behind that. And different things that we can maybe take a look at right away to move those a little bit quicker. As we go through, it's gonna be a joint meeting that there is with the community, and these are gonna be coming along, and we're looking at something that there is on a National Night Out, or what do we call it now? Night to Meet, or whatever it is, meet and greet, or whatever they come up with. But we're looking for that, and also probably have a tent or whatever that will be going on at Gold Rush to get the input with what there is. So on the code, what we're gonna try to do, besides bringing everything up to date, is we're also gonna try to have it where we've got diagrams and pictures that are there that will help a lot of people, because so many people will look at a code book and all it is a bunch of words, and it's like, well, let me take a look at a picture, and how does this look? How does that look? And try to have it where it's more user-friendly for what we've got going on. So our next steering committee is gonna be on July 3rd, just coming up, so there'll be more at that time. So it's good, we're moving ahead, and so it's 600 pages, what can I say, for the code book, so it takes a little bit of time to go through it, so. But I think it's gonna be good, especially with the diagrams coming, to make it easier for people to understand.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Item B under old business is the an update on the monthly incoming zoning applications and questions. And this is kind of your pet project also, so would you like to address that as well?
Yeah, and in our packet, we have a pretty good history of some of the stuff that came in. Also want to move ahead with an ability to turn around and have a real-time access to permits that come into the city. And we've got an iWorks program that there is for read only, where you're not gonna get involved with it, but just to be able to be aware. And that way, just the knowledge that there is of what's going on in the city, I think is gonna be real helpful for what we have here at planning and zoning, and also what's going on at city council. And again, it's trying to find a way that we can get rid of the try to have more of a transparent look of what's going on. So if we know, then we know. But a lot of the things that have been going on, we weren't even aware of for both planning and zoning and for city council. You know, and so those are the things that we want to at least know what's happening with the city, and I think we should be able to. So kind of closing that gap is going to be really good. But there was a good report that we had that was included with our packet this time. Much better than we've had for a lot of months.
So I have a question for you. With this iWork system that is a real-time information portal, is that something that is going to be accessible by only city council and P and Z commission, by us and the entire community? I mean, can they go on there and look and see what permits are being pulled, or?
It's yet to be decided. I don't have all that information. It's something that we discussed at the last city council meeting. And it was under discussion, and so I have it back for the next meeting to be voted on, you know, so until that happens, I can't tell you for sure.
So we'll just be getting more information about that as. we're
But it's
moving forward.
ways, again, we're trying to be transparent to make it so people understand what's going on in Caribbean.
Very good. Does that mean our time is up?
Yes.
Yes, please. We have one other order of business, and that is other business, and this is regarding the meeting minutes. And we know there's been a ton of frustration about the fact that P and Z minutes have not been posted for a very long time. We are now coming up to a more full staffing system, and there is a person that is designated to be in the room with us to take minutes. She is the one that actually gave us minutes for the May 19th meeting. And what she's doing is she's doing the minutes that are going forward and catching up with all the minutes for the months or year or however long it's been since this ceased to happen at the pace that it was expected and that it should happen. This woman, Mary, she has a family issue tonight. And so she let us know she wasn't going to be able to be here, which we are all about family first. And we supported her not to be here tonight, but she will be listening to the recording. She will be helping to get us caught up and to get all of this not only written, but posted and up to date. And that is something that we have been pushing for very, very hard for months. I don't even know how many months, but definitely since sometime in 2023. So that is the final item on the agenda. If there is no other business, then I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Meeting is adjourned at 9:13 PM. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Great, appreciate it.
Thank you.